with Bill Maher. From Veronica's Closet, Dan Cortese. From The Jerry Springer Show, Jerry Springer. Musician, Todd Rundgren. And from Men Behaving Badly, Jenica Bergere. And now, the star of Politically Incorrect, Bill Maher.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's Halloween, you can tell. Are you scared? It's scary because that's a scary day. It's all scary, yeah. I always go see the scary Halloween movies. There's always a couple out that scare you. But, you know, they're very unrealistic, these horror, scary Halloween movies. In fact, you know I can tell they're unrealistic. In the horror movies, the babysitters always protect children from the killers. That's how you can tell. Now, this was not a nice Halloween for the Clintons, the poor Clintons. Kenneth Starr, the Whitewater investigator, asked for another 6-month investigation to investigate Whitewater. I don't understand this about the contract with America. You can get kicked off welfare after 6 months, but you can investigate Hillary Clinton forever. Now, have you been following the big international story, which is the president of China, Jiang Zemin, is here. He was at the White House last night. Now he was in New York City. He was peppered with questions yesterday about some of the human rights practices in China, like that they are selling human organs for donors and that they eat cats and dogs. That's... No, they say they eat dogs. He said that's ridiculous. But if you're ever in Beijing, don't eat the roast duck if it has a Frisbee in its mouth. That's all he said. Yeah, he has really adopted to U.S. culture. Jiang Zemin's been here for about a week now, and he was at the IBM plant. They took him on a tour yesterday, and one of the guides said, you know, here's one of our IBM computers. It has a 1,000-megabyte hard drive, and he made a lame Marv Albert joke. He has really adopted to U.S. culture because he made a Marv Albert joke. Well... It's a scary crowd, actually, is what it is. It's Halloween. I'm scared. Well, there's a scary Halloween show coming on. I think it's Sunday, Cinderella. Have you heard about this? Very big show with TV's Moesha and Whitney Brown. Whitney Brown. Yeah, I guess she is. That's her name. Yeah, Whitney Houston, married to Bobby Brown. I think Bobby Brown had a bit of a hand in writing this because in this version of Cinderella, the prince recognizes the girl of his dreams by she has a glass jaw. Okay, thanks for coming. It's all been satirized for your protection. Former mayor of Cincinnati and current host of the Jerry Springer Show, Jerry Springer. Very good to see you back here.
Thank you.
She plays Katie on Men Behaving Badly. Sundays on another network, Jenica Bergere. Yes.
Hi.
Hello, kitten. How are you? You look wonderful. He plays Perry on Veronica's Closet. Thursdays on another network, Dan Cortese. Yeah. Thank you for coming, Dan. And he is a groundbreaking singer-songwriter and interactive artist. His new CD is With a Twist, Todd Rundgren. How are you, buddy? Good to see you.
Love the gel, man.
Thank you. That's my concession to sweeps. Other people have big things. I put gel in my hair for sweeps month. Okay. Now, what everybody is talking about today is the verdict came in yesterday in the Nanny trial, and let me just poll the jury right here. Now, this is very controversial. I have seen people very upset about this already. What do you think? Did this girl, this 19-year-old British au pair girl, she is going to spend a long time in prison. What do you think? Does she deserve it?
Well, I think Barry Scheck should have looked for a manslaughter before the whole thing started, where he said it's either she's guilty of murder or not. So
they didn't.
But asking Barry Scheck to be your lawyer is like getting on a small plane, you know, with a famous rock star. He's basically gonna do nothing for you.
Or a small show, perhaps? Oh, didn't mean to imply. I just.
Actually, you're not a big enough rock star to wear those glasses.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Are you a big enough host to take them off me? That's what I want to know.
wait.
Let's go right now.
Jerry, this is Jerry's show.
How quickly I feel at home.
Oh, Jerry. Jerry, you exploit the unfortunate. What do you think?
Well, for the next 15 years, it's going to be hard to get her on the show.
Right. But you...
No, I think, my view is that there wasn't sufficient, at least what I read, obviously I didn't sit on the jury, there wasn't sufficient evidence to find her guilty of murder. Yeah, and I don't think she ought to be in jail for 15 years. To blame the lawyers, though, for the strategy of saying, because it seems clear in many of these cases that if you say manslaughter is a possibility, the jury in a tough case will say, oh, good, let's go for manslaughter, it's the compromise.
So you didn't buy the prosecution's line. The prosecution's line was basically, this is a 19-year-old foreigner. She came to America. She thought America was going to be a lot of fun, and what it was 14 hours a day with a baby who was not a lot of fun, and that she pretty much just had her limit, and it went a little too far, just almost like an
When you're talking about murder, you're talking about with an intent to kill someone. I don't think...
No, not an intent. I don't think she intended, but I think...
Well, that's murder, then you got manslaughter.
Well, she didn't intend... That's exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's unfair. In other words, you know, did this girl get up in the morning and said, you know what, I am going to kill this little baby and go like this to kill the baby? I don't think the evidence was there. Do I know what was in her mind? Of course not. But I don't think the evidence was there to put her in jail for 15 years. It was a horrible thing that happened, but it's not murder.
It's amazing that, I mean, it's sort of fitting that this is Halloween, because Halloween celebrates the depths of human depravity. And that just somebody could do that to a baby. Or this other story that we want to talk about is this guy in New York State who...
Nashon.
Is that right? You know, his name is Nashon Williams.
Yeah.
Hey.
On a first-name basis.
Right. It's girls your age that he was preying upon. He went also by the name Shaitik Johnson. And also
Which is much cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
What kind of Johnson was that again?
Shaitik.
Oh, okay.
Shaitik.
Hi, this is Jatik. Would you like to go around?
With Nashon?
Now, this is really amazing to me. I mean, this talk about human depravity. This guy, I'm sure you heard the story, you know, had AIDS, was buying drugs in New York City, and sort of like working his way upstate by having sex with young girls, even though he knew he has AIDS. And I'm just so surprised, I guess I shouldn't be, that women would fall for a shyster like this. It's so sad.
What's frightening is he infected 28 people. And if he was attractive, like Dan Cortese, how many people would he infect?
I didn't tell you my middle name is Nashon.
What's up, Nashon?
I know.
No, I think the women that he infected as well, you're saying he infected, you know, I don't necessarily think that they're upstanding citizens as well. I mean, there's one woman was in a crack house, he found her. So I don't think
they're not citizens,
meeting, you know,
they're kids.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, and I think that's someone who should look at attempted murder and a death penalty there, because that's something that he is doing intentionally. You look at,
you know,
he had a friend interviewed. He had a friend interviewed as well that said he was upset over a breakup with a girlfriend, so he was going to do this to get back at any type of female he possibly could.
My question throughout this whole entire Nashon thing, Nashon, is that, well, do they not have public service announcements in New York?
Well, you know, I want to get to, I have to take a break, but we're going to come back. We're going to talk about what they should do about this situation, because AIDS is a deadly disease, and we will be right back.
you're planning to be in the Los Angeles area and would like free tickets to Politically Incorrect, call 213-852-2655.
All right, we had started to talk about Nashon Williams, a.k.a. Shaitik Johnson, a.k.a. Steve Garvey. Now, no, I'm kidding about Steve Garvey. Now, here's the point. Investigators found out about this guy because many women gave his description. And if they had had an AIDS database, which of course they don't, because the privacy issue with AIDS patients is very, very sensitive. It is politically correct. But what I think is important to ask is, can you have it both ways? In other words, I hear people say, AIDS is the worst epidemic, it's the tragedy of the 20th century. If it is an epidemic, shouldn't we treat it like every other epidemic? Well, some people...
Yeah, but there's no reason to give up privacy on this issue, and you can still protect the public.
What about trusting lives? That's not a reason?
No, but there's no reason. You can still have privacy. In other words, there should not be compulsory testing. If you want to protect yourself, if the public wants to protect itself from AIDS, getting it, for example, through sex, then simply as an individual you say, I will not have sex with someone I don't know, I won't have sex unprotected. You can protect yourself. You don't need a policy which says everyone has to say that whether or not they have AIDS. There's no reason to register.
I agree.
Protect yourself.
I think the thing is, too, then where does that lead? Then that leads to a blacklist, then it leads to getting employment, then it's, okay, well, I can't hire you because I saw this list where you have AIDS. I think we've entered an era here in the last 20 years where, because of this disease, you just have to be more cautious, more careful with your sexual partners, who you're going to choose. Are you going to have safe sex? It's sad, but it's true. I think when you create a list like that, that is an invasion of privacy, and then I think it leads to a blacklist.
If there was any other disease that didn't have a political lobby, there would not be this issue. If it was diphtheria, TB...
You know, any of these registration campaigns have always resulted in eventually in a pogrom. So there's, it's...
Well, that's not
It seems inevitable, in a way, that if you start registering people, the first thing you're going to have is pejorative behavior towards those registered people, and then a way to get around the system, ways to appear to be legitimate when you're not, in which case the system doesn't work any longer, even though people struggle to make it work.
But you're comparing, you say programs, that's religion with disease. That's a very that's a big...
But
and they have wiped out diseases.
Well, what is the difference? Some people,
what is the difference?
This is a religious issue. They consider anybody who has AIDS to have something to do with homosexuality, and it is a religious issue.
Yes, and what's the purpose of the registration? What does the registration do? How
if they had Mr. Nashon, Shaitik, and whatever other
You know what? It sounds like he has a Shaitik Johnson. That's the problem.
All his names sound like hair care products. But if they had had his name, they would have come upon this sooner.
No, these girls,
but is the point of registration to track criminals through the registration, or is it to find out who has AIDS and to not...
Well, I'm just saying, if you say it's an epidemic, then shouldn't you treat it like every other epidemic that's ever been treated?
But who has access to the list? Would these women have access to the list to go, Shaitik? All right, sorry, can't have sex with you.
Yeah.
Who has access to it?
No, but I think the authorities would have noted this before he got to like half of New York State.
Oh, let's give the authorities all the power. Yeah. They're doing such a good job with it now.
What scares me is all these they're trying to figure out what to do and how to find out if somebody has AIDS, but they're not even paying attention that 28 women didn't use condoms. 28 women weren't educated. I don't want to just blame. I want to blame like television. Do they not get cable in New York?
Protect yourself. You can protect yourself by simply saying, I don't know you, I don't know your sexual history, I am not having unprotected sex with you. That's all you have to say, and you're protected. No? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got to take a break to protect ourselves from... Okay, we're talking about how you protect kids from some of the horrors out there, sex being one of them. Another one, of course, is drugs nowadays, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Carroll O'Connor case. He lost his son, tragically, and he said recently in an interview, he said that what a parent should do is take away all his kids' civil rights, and parents are doing it. They They are hiring private detectives to spy on their children. They are drug test kids. Carol O'Connor said, I should have spied on him. He said, I should have taken away all his civil rights, opened his mail, listened to his phone calls. Do you think that's right? If you suspect a kid, whatever, you think your kid, you should take away his civil rights?
We don't know what kind of job Carol O'Connor did as a father up until the point he had this problem, you know, so I don't think that you have to take him, you know, at face value. To me, personally, it sounds like somebody trying to salvage at the last minute a relationship they never managed in the first place. Have you gotten to the point where you have to treat your children like strangers, essentially, or like, you know, strangers in your own home? Well, you know, you've already failed. And you know, admit it to yourself that, you know, you failed to build a sensible relationship with your children.
You don't think the danger of drugs out there is so great that even a good parent...
Well, it is great.
No, I don't. Absolutely do not.
Really?
I believe that. I don't believe there's anything more important in your children's life than you and your parenting skills. Right. Nothing is more important than that. You know, if you take that job seriously from day one, then
it's impossible that they'll get hooked on
drugs. No, it is not impossible, but you will have known at least that you did the job that you can do, and that there are just some things in the world you can't control. People eventually become in control of their own lives, and you just, you know, at a certain point, you just can't control.
Don't you think, too, it has to do something with communication? You can't start out this way. It has to start with communication. If you can't communicate with your child, or if you just start out saying, okay, I'm going to monitor what you're doing, I'm going to drug test you, that's a lack of trust. That's a lack of respect to your own child. Why should your child trust and respect you as a parent? You're gonna, you know what, Dad, get rid of the scotch bottle in the cabinet and then let's talk. You know, I think there's nothing positive that's going to come out of it.
Because maybe there are dangers when he leaves the house. Maybe you can have all the trust in the world.
You can monitor all you want. He's going to go smoke pot over at his friend Billy's house. You know, you can monitor the house. The kids are going to hide the things. If you start off negatively, it's going to end up negatively.
Carol O'Connor is hurt, so he's like scrambling, you know, he's basically trying to think, what did he do wrong? He's probably blaming himself, but like most parents to react that way is like codependent, maybe. It's like too much involvement as far as like going through their personal things is not going to stop them from using drugs.
But I think
educating them about what the effects are, or letting them know what you went through in the 60s or 70s or however.
Parents today would say, you know what, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're facing out there. The danger is so great that we can't control it, and so we have to do this.
I have a 17-year-old son. And I also have a 12-year-old son. And I also have a 5-year-old son.
I have 3 cats.
And my life revolves around it.
It's hard. I have to go through their litter, their food, wondering. So I check myself into Codependents Anonymous. I stay out. I say, kiddies, no more pot.
Well, you have a 17-year-old son and a 12-year-old son. They're very, very vulnerable.
Yes, they are.
And, you know, they could use an excuse. They say, my dad's a rock star. I mean, you know, my God.
I don't know why you ever reached the question, though, of the kids' civil rights. I mean, the whole issue is parenting. That doesn't mean... And so, yeah, a parent at some point probably does have, not even the right, probably the responsibility for a 14-year-old kid to check into the kid's closets and things like that. But it's not a matter of, it's not a legal issue. It's not right. It really has to do with building trust. No, because the kid technically
has no rights at home.
Okay. Yeah, but the point is you're raising him to be an adult. You know, you're not raising him to be a kid for the rest of his life.
And to say he's an adult at 12 is wrong. That's doing the kid a disservice.
No, that's not wrong, because at 12, kids in Somalia are carrying automatic weapons. You know, you completely misunderstand what an adolescent boy is like. Maybe you don't have one, you know, but adolescent boy is the most dangerous animal in the entire world.
Kids in Somalia are living in rolled-up balls of straw and worshiping dirt. That's the comparison you're going to make about kids in America?
No, and what I'm saying is that, you know, we have the luxury of stringing childhood out as long as possible. Whereas in some place like India, kids age 5 or 6 are working in a sweatshop somewhere, and that's what the rest of their life is going to be like. The point is that adulthood happens whenever it happens. It doesn't happen on your 18th birthday. You know, it happens, first of all, if you prepare your kids to be adults. You don't treat them like children for their entire life. You've got a life of your own to run.
So what's important is parenting, because like back to the nanny thing, there was the British people are saying the mother is responsible because she left her with the nanny 18 hours a day. So it's important that they're involved in the beginning, not all of a sudden when he dies or he's loaded, you become spy.
Right.
I'll tell you, by the time they're 14, 15, you really don't have any control. You're kidding yourself by that time. Really. If you haven't done your job, by
Right.
the time your kids are like 12, 13, 14, don't, you know, just give it up, because you're not going to make any difference then, you know.
Yeah. Okay, we're a little over. We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Today, when our guests will be Faye Anderson, Julianne Mulveau, Downtown Julie Brown, and Victoria Rowell.
All right, next week we're coming to you from Washington, D.C., because it sweeps, and that's why I'm wearing gel in my hair. And Marion Barry owes me money. Now, Todd,
Maybe I'll take the glasses.
you know what? You are the rock star of choice of millions, including myself, but I noticed that on your album, you have the same cheap Kmart glasses.